Welcome back everyone, and this is part 10, the final video of the Mammoth, episode 5. In this video I'm going to just cover some of the join alternatives that you may just come across in your SQL career. Now these are pretty rare, so it's more a case of have a look at them, check them out, and if you come across them you'll get an idea of what's going on. Nowadays people tend to stick with the standard joins like your inner, your left, etc. to do the business because they work pretty efficiently and they're quite easy to follow. So normally that's what I do during the day when I'm working with SQL, is I just use the standard joins. First one then that we're going to cover, and this is only one that I've seen recently, is a join where in your from clause, as you can see, the tables that we're joining, we simply separate them by a comma. Looks very odd, very different to the way that we've been working before, where you inner join on and then you have your joining criteria there. Now the key thing with this one here, other than separating the tables you want to join with the commas, is the joins themselves actually happen in the where clause there. So we're joining the order ID from order lines with the order ID on orders there. So that's the first where clause, and we're of course joining customer ID from customers to the orders table, and then customer order category from this table with customer category ID from the customers table. So pretty much the same thing as the script above, but it's doing it in a slightly different manner, which is more efficient. Not too sure. I suppose you could give it a go and try different ways, but let's run them off and see what we get. Not forgetting to change our database up there. Okay then, we've ended up with 462,000 rows. Let's click on that there. We get 231,000 rows there, which is that one there. And scrolling down, let's bring up our second batch of results. There we go. So there we have 231, and there we have 231 again. And as you can see, the results pretty much exactly the same. So that's just the inner join done with commas and the joins in the where clause themselves. Now obviously this isn't the most flexible way of doing things because it's pretty much just inner joining. If you then had to switch to a left join in your code, for example, you couldn't use this method here, and it's still not a very standard method. I suspect that this was maybe the method that they used when SQL first came out and they needed to join tables that were related. They used this method here. Somewhere along the line they come up with the different joins here when they needed to do left joins, etc. on there. So that's just something for you to remember if you ever had the rare chance of seeing joins done in this manner here. At least you'll know what's going on there. Next is the apply joins. We've got two different joins. We've got the cross apply and we've got the outer apply. Now the cross apply is very similar to the inner join, and the reason that they brought the cross apply in was probably to see if it could be more efficient than the inner join itself. In certain scenarios, yes, it may be more efficient. So it's a case of basically running off the two different queries that we've got here and seeing which is the most efficient. Normally when you're dealing with a vast amount of rows that you're joining on, then maybe the cross apply might work a bit better. But the inner joins themselves, as we've seen, the standard joins have always been optimized more and more by Microsoft, etc., in their SQL Server, and other companies within theirs, so it's still pretty efficient. However, as you can see, we've got two queries here, one with the inner join, one the cross join, and they produce exactly the same results. 70,510 per run there. Let's check that one out. 70,510, 70,510 there. And as you can see, the data is pretty much similar, pretty much exact. So they work very similar then. The only difference is that it looks a bit like a subselect within a join, but instead of doing the inner join, you're saying cross apply in there. So you simply write your select from, put in your brackets, etc., and the join of course happens within the cross apply selection there. So we're joining on the order ID from the invoices table within with the order ID from the orders table on the outside. So that's the difference. So you need to structure your cross apply in this manner, and of course we give it a name, call it I, and we get our invoice ID from that. So which one is more efficient? Not too sure. In each situation, each scenario, things change between the two, so you just have to run them off and give it a go. However, what the cross apply can be really good at is if you wanted to return, say, the latest 3 invoices per customer, for example. So here's our where clause, where we're joining our customer ID on our inside invoices with our customer ID on our customers table on the outside, and say we wanted to see the top 3, should I say the latest invoice dates, as we've done here in our order by, invoice date descending, so it'll be the top 3 invoices from there. Let's have a look at that. We'll sort by the customer name and the invoice date. Don't worry too much about the logic in here, because this sort of thing the cross apply is hardly used, but just to see you the flexibility that you can see, here's your first customer, 3 entries, here are their 3 latest invoices up here, and then you've got your next customer there, 3 of, there's their 3 latest invoices, and so on and so on throughout the entire customer listing. There's 3, and that's the 3 latest invoices, invoice dates and the invoice IDs. So you can use it in such a manner. It's pretty flexible to then write that normally with your code with inner joins. Could be quite tricky. However, this is pretty straightforward and simple coding to achieve this effect. That's the cross join then, cross apply should I say, which is similar to the inner join. What about the outer apply? That then is similar to the left join. So as you can see, we've got our left join here, and we're pretty much doing the same thing with an outer apply, open and close brackets. Here's our little select statement, and we give it a pseudonym in there. Let's run those off. And there you go. So the first one, 73,595. Next one, 73,595. So those 2 queries producing exactly the same results. Now we're left joining, so as you can see there's some nulls coming in, and the same with the outer apply. We get our nulls coming in. All the order IDs and the invoice IDs and invoice date if they do have a link with the order ID. So that's pretty much it. A quick overview of the three different ways that you may come across the joins here with just commas between the tables and the joining actually going on in the where clause. You've got the cross apply, which is similar to the inner join, and you've got the outer apply, which is similar to the left join. Fantastic stuff. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of episode 5. We've covered a vast amount within the select statement, looking at joins and different ways of working within the select statement itself, inline views, CTEs, all sorts, and we've even had a look at some weird and wonderful join types at the end there. Join me, everyone, when we move on to some more fun stuff in episode 6, and until then, I hope you all have a fantastic day.